It was supposed to be a fun camping trip with his friends, but Phil soon regretted his decision to join them. They had picked a remote spot in the woods, far away from any civilization, and set up their tents near a small lake. Phil had always been fascinated by the legends of the Bigfoot, but he never expected to encounter one in real life. The first night, they heard strange noises outside their tents. They sounded like heavy footsteps, snapping branches, and low growls. Phil and his friends were terrified, but they tried to convince themselves that it was just a bear or a wolf. They stayed inside, hoping that whatever it was would go away. The next morning, they found their campsite in a mess. Their food was gone, their coolers were smashed, and their tents were ripped. They also saw large footprints around the lake, measuring about 18 inches long and 8 inches wide. Phil felt a chill run down his spine. He knew that these were not the marks of any ordinary animal. They were the marks of Bigfoot. He wanted to leave immediately, but his friends insisted that they stay for one more night. They said that they had come all this way to enjoy the nature, and that they were not going to let some prankster or hoaxer ruin their trip. They said that they would be more careful and keep a fire going all night. Phil reluctantly agreed, but he had a bad feeling about it. That night, the noises returned. They were louder and closer than before. Phil and his friends could hear the creature breathing heavily outside their tents. They could smell its foul odor, a mix of rotten meat and wet fur. They could feel its presence looming over them. They were paralyzed with fear, unable to move or scream. Suddenly, they heard a loud roar, followed by a ripping sound. Phil looked out of his tent and saw a horrifying sight. A huge, hairy creature, standing at least 8 feet tall, with glowing red eyes and sharp teeth, had torn open one of the tents and grabbed one of his friends. It lifted him up in the air and bit into his neck, spilling blood everywhere. Phil's friend let out a final, agonizing scream before going limp in the creature's jaws. Phil was frozen in shock. Unable to believe what he had just witnessed, he wanted to run. But he knew that he had no chance against the beast. He wanted to help his other friends, but he knew that they were doomed. He wanted to just fucking die. He closed his eyes and waited for his turn. He heard another roar, another rip, another scream. He felt the creature's breath on his face, its claws on his chest, its teeth on his throat. He felt the pain, the fear, the horror. He felt nothing else.